My homework is to introduce a little bit about environmental problems in Slovenia, especially linked to some hotspots. And because my profession is also soil science and environment, I will show you a few figures and some data about our concerns about soil pollution. I'm happy that I have to say welcome you in the name of Slovenian Council for Environmental Protection, which I'm president also. So, if we are looking our life, we see that we have three natural resources which we are dependent on them: air, water and soil. Air and water is much more visible if it's something wrong, but soil is not. We are eating products which are growing from the soil, but contaminated soils has much deeper and longer effect on our life. That's the reason that even United Nations accept documents, National Convention, combat desertification and degradation of soil, because you may don't know that in 200 years we lost 1/4 of soils, fertile soils on our globe. So environment is quite dependent in our life on soil quality, because nobody doesn't know that 4 by 4 by 4 centimeters more organisms are living than whole population on the world. More than 6 billion organisms in such small amount. And this is the power how soils could, let's say, destroy everything what is organical, which goes again in the cycle. And we are not aware of this. And normally the food and other biomass production is dependent. Then storing, filtering and transformation of chemicals in the soil. And also it's a habitat of gene pool, because organisms which are in the soil, let's say penicillium was 100,000 of years in the soil already. So people were invented that we use these organisms also for some medicine. And also it is a physical and cultural environmental for mankind and source of raw materials. Now soil contamination is now also issue in European Union, because already 4 years ago was on the agenda of all commissions from Portugal, Slovenia, Czech Republic, France, even Sweden, but till now they didn't yet accept soil strategy of European Union, even that Parliament did this. If we are looking around, where are the sources of pollution? They are quite diverse. Normally many people said agriculture is the most ugliest part of our life, but let's say infrastructure, water wastewater and also industry are really important sources, that some heavy metals and some organic substances are present in some regions. But normally the most important are hotspots, which are residue of old industry, where they were not aware of such problems, and also general diffuse pollution from the traffic, from the nowadays also some volcanoes make troubles population in Europe, and maybe some other problems could arise which we are not aware. Some people said it's good that we have this volcano, because we starting thinking that life is not so simple, that one volcano could stop all flights in Europe. And maybe earthquakes and some other natural disasters are raising awareness that we have and we are dependent on nature. And normally that also some chemicals which are in the soil, which we use in our life, are also that we should be aware. Waste management. You read in newspapers how we are fighting waste in Slovenia and we are not successful. Then we are fighting how to clean water and wastewater. We are not effective enough. And we have MP10 particles which we overcome already, and we will probably pay some million of euros to European Union because the air is not clean enough in Slovenia. And sludge, which is the product of wastewater treatment, we have to do something with it. Burning, spraying on the field, or using as a source of energy. Number of farming practices are now on the agenda that agriculture should be much more sustainable, and that we have to go to biomass production. And this is one of the questions which bothers me, that some people in Slovenia decided that they will use food for gas production. There are some ideas in eastern Slovenia to use 20,000 hectares of soil to producing silage and making gas from it instead of food. So even those questions are important for scientists to raise awareness to politicians which are shortcoming vision to be elected again, which is the main aim. Normally, even the European Union decided to make some levels of arrangement, like if level 0, no impact on use restriction, level 1, minor impacts, not yet restriction, but level 2 and 3 are raising awareness to science community, to decision makers, that we cannot use such regions as normal life. We have to protect people which are living there, we have to protect food, again, contamination and so on. So monitoring on those trends are important. And for long-term protection, which is really important to have some persistent. And European agency actually established environmental information on observation network, which is calling IONET, and also all member countries are member of this network. Let's go to Slovenia. Slovenia is it's a beautiful country. It's diverse with biology, with plants and so on. And we have also many climatic regions. So we are rich. We have even 4 climatic regions: alpine, subalpine, continental, even Mediterranean, in such small scale. And this has also big impact on biodiversity. Even geology is quite diverse. You know that 44% of Slovenia is covered by karst. And that's the reason that also soil types are quite diverse, and susceptibility for pollution of different soils is normally different. But if we are looking Slovenia, you see just 18% of Slovenia is flatland. Here is most important region for food production, and most people are living here, most infrastructure is here, so conflicts are really serious on 18% of Slovenia. And normally that we have some hotspots, which I will show you later, because some abundant and active metal smelters and iron works are in Slovenia, Jesenice, Adria, Mežica, even Celje, or even some hotspots from past. Those are the most important area where we have serious problems, not just with pollution, but also the quality of life of people which are living there. Normally that old mines, they have quite serious impact on physical impact, pollution impact, and normally also occupation health impact. You will read later on web all these details. But if we are going to Adria, we are happy that Professor Horvat, she is here. She spent a lot of research doing with mercury. I will show you just one interesting result which were made by Dr. Schein, which those red spots are area for sampling, and he made two types of research about attic dust and soil. And this red color, you see that dust has much bigger area of impact, and dust is dust which we are inhaling. So it's coming to our lung. But normally also soils are still in some region polluted. It's the same situation in old lead smelter and lead mine in Mežica, which sometimes we call that this is that valley of Slovenia. Now is recovering slowly, and also here we have some data that if we are comparing pollution of ground or soil and dust, you see how bigger effect is on dust in case of air movement. Normally, if we are looking today's analytical procedures, we know that science gives a lot of opportunity how to measure some pollutants. But the problem is sampling, because if we are using 10 grams of soil for analysis, 1 hectare deep 20 centimeters is 3 million kilograms. To make representative samples, it's quite big issue. And we know which we are doing with those research, that sample strategy is the most important part of research of pollution. Then reports are important, because we have reports for science people and decision makers. Don't give decision makers ppms of some mercury, because they will not understand, or they don't want to understand. So we use normally red colors like semaphore, green, yellow and red, and this is also understandable for decision makers. But for people which are responsible, normally quite important data should be put together that they could use even through the GIS or even to upgrade their research. And here is the picture where we sampled soils in the past to get situation how polluted is Slovenia, and normally that also hotspots are part of this. And red color are amounts which are critical. Yellow is trigger value, and green is some which is much more normal. And you will see, if I'm going through those maps of some elements, you will see that immediately you will have idea that hotspots are where old industry were. But it's nice picture. DDT, you remember, is forbidden for 25 years, but we still could find in some region because the lifetime of DDT is quite long. And maybe we will figure out in the future that some new chemicals are also poisoned, but research is not following so fast that we will recognize that something is wrong. Some people said that if each laden house is connected with 300 chemicals per day. Most for them we don't know, or we cannot identify how harmful are. So we have some legislation, and I will stop a little bit about Celje County, because we are fighting now in the parliament to get legislation how to solve those old problems in Celje, like we did a few years ago for Mežica, and it's already state plan how to solve problems, especially the quality of life. And if we are looking what is the reason in Celje for pollution, is that zinc smelter industry had a lot of residues which people use to preparing ground where they build houses. And they put on the top soils, but you see water movement through the porous system is going up and down. And through the history also some heavy metals come on the top of the soil. And this picture will show you four pits where we did analysis through the soil profile, and here red color is a trigger value, and blue line is contamination with some elements like cadmium, lead and zinc. Look this one. You see that in the middle of the layer we have higher pollution, which means that there are some residues from not proper use of moving some material from the zinc smelter. But if we are looking this picture, when we made grid and analysis for some elements, you see we're a red color. So in the middle of city we have high pollution with elements like cadmium, zinc and lead, and normally if we recognize somewhere zinc, we're always searching cadmium and zinc because they are always together. And this picture will show you that that's true. You see, zinc, lead, cadmium. And this was also the reason that we figure out where we shouldn't use soil for food production, because later you will see that some plants are quite susceptible for taking some heavy metals. Like you will see, we use some indicator plants, Plantago lanceolata, narrow leaf plantain, perpotec po slovensko. You know that this plant is growing almost everywhere, and because it's growing everywhere, we could use this plant also as an indicator plant, because analysis in the soils are quite expensive. And if we have indicator plant, which is the last plant in this figure, here this green, the last one, this one, and we compared all vegetables which they use in this region, how vegetables are susceptible for some elements, and this picture shows us lead. So we could then combine with narrow leaf plantain with other plants, and also we have figured immediately how different are. And we use as a model, this model was quite successful even internationally, that we use Dobrna, our spa, which is far from Celje, then in vicinity of Celje one farm, and in the city. And we are going back, you see the values are below the red color. But we are going close to Celje, the numbers are going higher and higher, and in the city you see negative impact on some plants, and if people are eating those plants for a long period, some diseases could be much often recognized than normally. And then normally you will see that some plants are not so susceptible as others. And you have here picture for lead for corn silage, which they use whole plant for feeding. If you use just corn, you will see, this is the second picture with those stars, seeds are protected against pollution. So we could advise farmers what to do. And the same situation is for cadmium, where location Dobrna, which is Spa, Medlock, which is close to Celje, and then in the city. So important is that some elements goes through the root system to the plant, but some are mostly deposit, and lead is important as deposit material. Look, if we are washing vegetable, you see how you could reduce the amount of lead, but some elements are really movable through the rooting system, and then normally you cannot do this. Then you have to choose other procedures, and some colleagues of mine today afternoon, they will tell you how to do this. Thank you very much.